Yay, we did it. Happy full moon.
I didn't know that. That'll be
Today
later.
is the Leo full moon. Yeah, so that's a little reason why I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but I'm feeling a little tingly, a little edgy, a little yeah, but
Yeah.
anyway, thank you so much for doing this with me again. It's been a while. And for those of you who are joining us and who will be watching this later, I want to introduce my guest. First of all, I'm Natasha. Welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. And this is my amazing guest who's very special and dear to my heart, Alan Mitchell of Golden Ratio Media. Thank you so much for being here, Alan.
All
Um,
pleasure.
yeah, it's been a while since our last live. We used to do lives on Instagram, and we both left Instagram.
Great.
Yay! So,
To get on.
say again.
But it's a good train. You guys should get on it.
Totally. Yes. If you haven't considered leaving your Instagram, we highly recommend it. Yeah. And just for, just for the kicks, how has life been without that for you?
At first, it was a bit like quitting smoking. I don't smoke, but I would imagine that it's the same thing. You're trying to figure out what to do with your hands, and you have we over the last year we built this network of people to associate with and to connect to, and you know with social media being what it was and hiding the truth, people like you and I who are, that's our bread and butter. We share the truth all day, and when people started shutting the door little by little, it's like you have your own personal sovereignty, and I'm like, I don't have to participate in this, so I left. And at first it was difficult, but we went back to text message.
Yep. Yep. And now I'm on Telegram. I like search for other outlets, but none of them like just they just didn't feel right. And I'm now on Telegram, and you can find me, those of you watching, on under Natasha Soul Ascension, and it's actually has a really clear vibe to it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not like, in terms of energy, it's not like the others. So I encourage you, those of you watching, to please like consider it, because things are going to be shifting even more in that direction.
Yes.
So let's get to today's topic of starseeds. This is a topic that's very close to my heart, and especially with this gentleman joining me today. We found each other on Instagram, and what I'd like to throw out there, we're talking about starseeds and why we think we're here. And so going back to a couple of years ago, I just randomly had these very random experiences. None of them were connected, but it was brought to my awareness over a period of experiences that I am a blue avian starseed. And after I found that out, I was like, well, there's got to be others out there like that are having these experiences, right? And so I started putting my feelers out, mostly on Instagram, but on Facebook too. But I, like, anytime I got like the slightest hint that someone because it's like it's when you're first discovering these things, it can sound like crazy talk, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I put my feelers out, and a mutual friend of ours on Instagram did a live with Alan, and on this video, and I'd been searching for months, and like had like closed doors, multiple closed doors. And I saw this live with Alan, and Alan just flat out, you said I am a blue avian starseed. And Jeannie was like, really? And you're like, dude, look at my eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, he is. And I immediately contacted, I DM'd Alan and I was like, tell me, there was like no filter. I was like, are you starting? Do you think you're a blue avian, yeah, it's been really cool to connect with you over the past few months, especially last year. Yeah, so I wanted to get your version of the story and how you discovered that you were a blue avian starseed.
Well, I'll start at the earlier phases of my life. So when I was a child, I had a lot of experiences that some would dub extraterrestrial, right? And I'm not going to be shy about feeling like I might sound like a crazy person. If you're watching this, then you probably understand. Some of you that are watching know me personally and know that I'm a straight shooter. I don't know how to sugarcoat. So when I was younger, I had a lot of experiences where I saw a lot of craft, a lot of craft. Um, I would have paralysis, sleep paralysis situations, things like that, vague memories. And I never really understood it. And part of the starseed mentality is always feeling like you don't really connect to the current timeline or the sheet of music. You're just out of sync with everybody else. And it used to bother me. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I moved around a lot. And, I went through a series of, I guess, low points in my life where things needed to have a perspective shift. I always say perspective is reality. And so my perspective was saying that there's more to the story of me than I'm understanding at present. And I've always been big into ancient societies and cultures, and I've always fallen down that rabbit hole repeatedly. And I started to recognize that we were here a lot longer than history books will tell us that we're here. And in the process of that, the information I was coming across really resonated with me. And I was like, well, there's got to be a reason why I know these things that I shouldn't have knowledge of. I mean, these are ancient things. And then one day, right before the pandemic hit and the world shut down, I was in a transcendental state, right? My wife and I were sitting around in the living room. She was watching a documentary on yoga and meditation. And in the process, I'm sorry?
What was she watching a video on?
On yoga and meditation. And so I had never meditated before, and she's a yogi. And so she was off in her state, and I was sitting in my chair, and I was comfortable, and the time just felt right. And, I went to my sweet spot. I just closed my eyes and I took a deep breath. Having never done this before, I didn't know what to do. And I literally just said, take me to the source. And what happened next was a very profound experience. I was basically traveling through empty space. It was like a star field, right? All these stars passing me as I'm traveling through space. And I was very much conscious and aware. But at the same time, I didn't really know what to expect. And in front of me was this point of light, and it was kind of pulsing. And I was getting closer to it, closer to it. And then I started to notice that this pulsing light that I thought was a star was actually some sort of a being. You could see torso and head and arms and legs. And I wasn't nervous at all, but I was being drawn to it like a magnet. And it was in empty space. It was just sitting there hovering. And as I got closer to it, the auric field around it, this bright white field of light, kind of dissipated enough where I could start to make out features. And at first, what I saw was like iridescent, what I thought were scales, but turned out to be feathers. And as I got closer to it, I had this feeling of connection. It was like looking in the mirror. And as I stepped forward, it was almost like when you go shop for a car and you sit in the various number of cars, and then the one that you buy, you sit in it and you're like, that's the one. This one's for me, right? And I literally just stepped into this being. And as I did, my perspective shifted to first person. And it was almost like a heads up display. There were these 3 rows of squares that were like pictures, like TV screens almost. And they went on in front of me for eons on either side. And the first one that I zoomed in on, it kind of just folded in front of me. And it was me as a king. And I recognized that it was a past life. It was all very quick that this was happening. And I
Mhm.
was like, as soon as I thought I was a king, I heard in a big booming voice, yes. I was like, and before I could second guess that, I heard yes again, you know? And then I heard the name Adamos, son of Ra. And I was very confused at first, but again, I'm looking at all of my lives going on for eons and eons and eons. And
Mhm.
everything I was looking at was playing back in my mind's eye. And something told me just inhale. And as I inhale, all of those images started coming into the center of my chest. And I just kept inhaling and inhaling and inhaling, just one big breath. And then I let it out. And as soon as I did, I said, I am powerful. And all of the stars around me vibrated. And at that point, there was this collapsing of the shape of my head. I could feel it. It was almost like Stewie from Family Guy, how his head comes to a point on the sides, and these bright beams of light shot out of my temples, and in either direction, the stars would vortex around this energy that I was putting out. And this experience went on for about 10 minutes or so. But when I came away from it, I felt completely different. And when I say completely different, I mean, I was in a bad space mentally prior to that experience. And it was like night and day from 5 minutes or 15 minutes out to after it happened. It was completely different, Alan. And I've been this guy ever since. But the research that I did on it, the image that I saw was exactly what you would see in the hieroglyphics. Body of,
Mhm.
body of a human, the head of a bird, um, small little tuft of feathers up on the top, but just very much a resonating feeling of, yes, you found your higher self, you've made that connection. And I didn't know of the actual race of beings associated as blue avians until after the fact. So that was right around the time that you and I connected. And I remember saying, how did you know? And you were like, you have that energy, that frequency, you know? And it's a very interesting thing. And that ability to control your frequency now, because once you make that connection, once you bond with your higher self, you get all of these abilities and traits that are really just, if you can't describe it, it's something you have to experience. But that's, yeah, in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's sort of like a remembering, right? It
Mhm.
feels like a remembering of that aspect of myself. Like it didn't all come at once.
Mhm.
It was a learning process for sure. And now it's even now, like I feel the frequency of that expanding within myself as I expand in consciousness. That frequency as that expression of blue avian also expands, which is really cool, I think, because it's not, oh yeah, okay, I'm a blue avian and that's that. No, there's like a remembering and a growth process around it as well. For sure. For sure. So I'm curious about any recent experiences that you've had. We touched a little bit on it before the live started, so I wanted to go back to that. In terms of Starseed and uh, your blue avian expression, like have you noticed anything recently?
I feel very strong burst of frequencies. My ears normally ring, but I'll get pressure and very strong, high pitch ringing in my ears from time to time. And then the night that will happen, I'll have some sort of astral travel event, or, I'll wake up with a different set of clarity. That's generally how it happens. I'll wake up and there'll be a different clarity level to the
Mhm.
things that we're experiencing here. And it's, as you said, it's a deep knowing. It's not I can't even really call it intuition. Intuition to me is kind of like you're
Mhm.
being driven by feeling,
Uh-huh.
and this is just an internal knowing.
Right, right.
And to answer your question, I did have an experience that we talked about briefly on the last live, I believe, where I was taken to what was called the construct. And it was a channeling event too. And what preceded that was that I was sun gazing, where you just stare at the sun. And
Mhm.
that was a mistake because my eyes were messed up for days afterwards. But
You have
I
to do
did
it at a certain time of day.
never done it before, just like, the meditation. I had never experienced it. I used to look at the sun as a kid, but still, I had this experience where um, actually it sounded as if you were the channeler. I had this voice that was explaining to me where I was. And the short and sweet of it is I was taken to a void. If you've watched the movie The Matrix, it's very similar. It's actually called the same thing. It was called The Construct. And
Mm.
in this space, this void, at first it was nothing. It was just white. And the voice that was kind of, I guess, narrating the experience, if you will, was explaining to me that this is where you can manifest anything that you can create in your mind. If you can build it in your mind, it will manifest itself in the real space. And there were a couple disclaimers about, I guess, aspects of the law of one or the galactic codex, where you're not supposed to use this for any nefarious activities. You're not trying to win the lottery or see the future. But as this narration was going on, all of these egg-shaped chairs started to appear in my space. And at a certain point, they just went on into the distance of this void. But where I was, that segment of chairs, there were a lot of, I call them entities because they had human aspects to them, but they didn't feel human. I
Mhm.
guess that's the best way I can describe it. Like you can feel human energy. This didn't feel like that, right?
Right.
And I'm led to this chair, my own chair. Now, as I sit in the chair, this augmented reality screen pops up in front of me, and I could still hear the narration. And they were explaining to me that the whole purpose of this chair was that A, these are for ascended masters, and B, that you can remote view anyone on the planet in real time. And it's not just I see what you see, it's I feel your emotions, I can hear your mindset, your energy field, whether you're in pain or anguish or anything like that. I can sense all of these, right? And so I'm shown the event, and we've discussed the event, the Great Solar Flash. But in an essence, it was a very real experience. It wasn't like, sometimes you'll have a dream and you'll be like, well, that was odd, and I could smell things or feel things. This was very much presence, you know.
Mm.
But again, it sounded like your voice. But that was my last experience, and that was probably about a month ago, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. It was I recall you talking about it on our last Instagram live. So yeah.
That
Yeah.
was a while.
I had a similar experience. What's that?
So that was a while ago.
Yeah, yeah. I had a similar experience. I know what you're talking about with the chairs. Um, and I'm not, I think I told you about this, but it wasn't where I was in a void, but I was on a ship, and I it again, like what you're describing, it was very real. It was like I astral traveled there.
Right.
Um, and I'm on a ship, and I can see like there's this huge window, and I could see out this window, and I could see stars, and I could sense. I didn't see Earth, but I could sense Earth out in the distance. And there were these beings over to my right, and it was it was really dark. Like I couldn't really see clearly because it was so dark. But the beings, they had the blue avian frequency, right? I couldn't really see them. I could see their form, but I couldn't see any details. But their frequency was definitely blue avian. And it's like the two of them were talking with each other about me, like kind of like informing each other on my status or something. Like, like she's here. What are we going to do with her? And I just felt very relaxed and comfortable. And I was sitting in a chair that was shaped like what you're describing. Not that it was an ascended master chair or anything, but I'm sitting in this chair and I just felt really relaxed, like I belonged there. And I had this knowing that I could remote view wherever I wanted
Mm-hmm.
as I was sitting in that chair. It was like a very distinct feeling, like this knowing, like, oh, I could totally remote view any place in this galaxy right now. So it's very cool. We had very similar uh, experiences, visions around that. Um,
Yes.
I wanted to get like to the most recent, like the past 2 weeks, um, in terms of what we're seeing, what we're sensing, what we are experiencing, because for me, um, it it feels like there's a lot of people waking up to this knowledge of their star roots.
Mm-hmm.
There was a great wave of people who woke up to this last year around this time.
Yes.
And I'm sensing that there's even an even larger wave of people that are waking up to this
Mm-hmm.
knowledge. And so I wanted to address that and let those who are watching know, hey, you're not crazy. You're- there's others like you, don't worry about it. Like, and just really relish your experiences, because this is a lifetime experience. What you are observing, what you're experiencing, it's a lifetime experience to have this awareness come into your being. So relish it. Like, really just absorb it. Allow yourself to absorb it and try not to like read into, oh, am I losing my am I losing my marbles or what? I just flipped my lid, because no, no, dear heart, you have not.
Mm-mm.
Not. But here's the thing that I want to get to, and Alan, I want to get your take on this.
Okay.
And this is specifically for starseeds who are blue avians, who identify as blue avian. I'm just going to make a statement. It's been brought to my awareness recently that we have what it looks like is this huge, amazing blue crystal available to us. And my understanding is that it is a way for us, it's sort of like a communication portal. I'm not sure that it's an actual portal that we can travel through, like astral travel through. I just am aware of like communication, because it's my understanding that our planet is like way out there, right? It's like really high in the upper dimensions, right? I think the lowest one, my knowledge is that blue avians can they go between ninth and 11th dimension, but like our planet is in 11th dimension. Okay, so this crystal that I've become aware of, it's in the fifth, sixth dimension. It usually kind of hovers around in the sixth dimension, is my awareness. Sometimes it goes to seventh, but it tries to stay constant within the sixth dimension. So our frequency has to be pretty high in order to connect with this crystal. But it is there. I'm not sure how long it's been there, but I feel like it's come online fairly recently.
Mm.
That it, well, let me just say this, that it's in the past, in our human past, it's kind of gone in and out of transmission in that dimension to where we could like connect with it. But now it's more stable and it stays a longer duration in that sixth dimension. So, but it is there. It's there for us to connect with so that we can connect with our home planet and others on our home planet that we want to communicate with. And I think it's been about a week and a half. I was given this information. I was also downloaded with a meditation that you guys can find on my channel. It's a blue crystal activation. I was activated to connect with this crystal. I have not yet received any sort of transmissions other than vibration, other than frequencies. But I just want to make you guys aware that it is there. It's, you know, it's available for you to tap into so that you can learn about your planet, so that you can learn about what it is, if you're newly awakened to this, what it is that, you know, information that you need to, what it means to be a starseed.
Right.
Blue avian starseed. And that it's absolutely necessary. Oh my gosh, I got like full head to toe chills right now. You guys, it is absolutely necessary for us to connect at this time because, and I know that you're going to feel this frequency as I speak to you right now in this moment, that blue avians are, they are healers.
Mm-hmm.
And we are here to help heal the planet. We're here to be of service to humanity and help with the healing process that is happening right now. So I encourage you to do what you can to step into this role as a blue avian starseed. Allow yourself to really immerse yourself into that frequency and bring in that light into your being, because that is what you're going to be called to do, is fulfill that role in whatever capacity, whatever way your heart desires, and just allow it to unfold.
I want to piggyback off of that.
Okay, please do.
There are probably quite a few people that are watching now and that will be watching in the days and weeks to follow that were called to this video because that was their time, right?
Right.
We all spent so much time online looking for truth and this and that. And when we find the truth, it feels like the truth. And there's a blockage in the mindset of the average person where they don't really understand what it means to be a starseed. There's a lot of personality traits out there. There's a lot of videos out there, but the heart of it is if you are called to service of others in some form or fashion, just a draw for you, whether it be yoga or Reiki or, you know, whatever your avenue is, you know it, and
Right.
it pulls you.
Right.
And there will come a point where you might not have the exact same experience that myself or Natasha has had, but you will have an experience that is very much your own, and you will be challenged by that. It will feel like, am I losing my mind? No, you're not. There, it's not for everybody, first of all. So if you are feeling that way, it's because you're special, and you know that. It's not an ego-driven thing, and you've probably gone through a lot of circumstances that have caused you to break that ego down, and you still find this energy to continue on, but you might find that it's bringing you in a different direction. You might have been clawing away at the corporate ladder and it wasn't working for you. You didn't feel like you fit in. And all of a sudden you find your niche. And when you do, you'll find others like you. And that's your mark. That's how you'll know that
Absolutely.
feeling is real.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to go back to what you're saying about Starseed, and I just want to take it. I want to take it down to the basics because I feel like there's going to be people asking like this, like that question: Am I? And what do I do with that? Going back to what Alan just said, if you feel it, you know it. There's no question. You may question it. You may question it, but if you're feeling it, and especially if you're getting signs,
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, you guys, when I first discovered that that I was a blue avian, I was having dreams. I would be walking down the street and a blue jay would like dive at me. It's like all of these different, I would find blue feathers. It was just like all of these things. So, yeah, you will know it. The other thing is, well, what do I do with that? And I just want to get to the basics. Let's consider the word star seed. Let's start with seed. Seed is that little package of life, right? And it cracks open when you least expect it to, and it begins to emerge. Okay? It emerges from its dormancy, right?
Mhm.
It's been like under the ground, dormant, but it cracks open and it emerges. What's a star? A star is this source of light. That is our work. We are emerging and we're here to radiate that light. And that knowing that we've been cracked open, that we've awakened to, right? So it's like that is our work. Be as much light as you possibly can be. In whatever way you translate that in, if you're an artist, if you're a musician, whatever, allow that light to translate, because that is where we're going and that is what is needed. And that's actually part of the way that it's going to be healing for the planet and for humanity. Is there anything you'd like to say with that, Alan?
Yeah, there, when you were talking about the aspects of star seeds, um, the Hopi Indian tribe, they used to talk about the web of creation, right? And you hear that and you don't really fully connect the dots, but that's a funny part, right? If you look at the stars through a certain type of telescope, you can actually see that they connect through energetic filaments. Everything is connected to one another, and it literally makes a web. Every star, every planet, and as above, so below. We are all connected the same way. And that is a lot of the dominant personality trait of a star seed is they feel that connection to other people through their energy, through their emotions. And the more that you tap into it, the more that you start to recognize, it's kind of like a superhuman strength. It doesn't feel normal. It doesn't feel like everybody else. Some people will say, "Oh, I understand what you mean," or "I feel your pain." No, you don't. There are certain people that really can feel those things. You call them empaths. You can go deep into your personality traits. I'm an INFJ, which is a very rare personality type, and you're constantly aware of energies and the thought processes of people. And I've, since I was a child, always used to break down my experiences, and it's given me a vantage point and a perspective that allows me clarity, especially now that I'm fully connected to that higher self, to recognize what's happening in the world around us, especially today. you know and your natural inclination is to help people, not jump on the Twitter thug train and start, telling everybody that they're crazy or they're this or they're that. You're looking for a way to spread truth and light.
Right.
And many years ago, I had a saying that was, I want it to be the light at the end of the tunnel, but not at the end, but at the front, illuminating that path to greatness. That was my little key saying. And there's a lot of validity to that even now. Like, we live in a very, from the certain perspective, we live in a very dark world. I don't necessarily believe that, because there are a lot of people right now that are spreading a lot of light.
Oh,
And some that are on here, they know me personally and know that even with all of the darkness that's happening right now, I'm that ray of light in the corner that's like, hey, and I do this for one reason. I use the Christmas light analogy a lot, right? You're hanging up your Christmas lights and you notice that a strand is out. It's one bulb usually that needs to be replaced, but you have to go and find that bulb so that
right.
you can fix that problem and turn
Mm.
all those other lights on. And so that has to be your mindset right now. You have to be able to look for that dim bulb, that one that's going out, flickering, going out in and out of its energetic sovereignty. we're all sovereign beings, and we're going to come to that realization very soon here. And it doesn't seem like it, but that knowing that we talked about is that's just going to be the result. But you have to be able to be stripped of all of the things that you think we need in life before you'll get uh, that resolution, that recognition of what it is that I'm here for, because you've been searching for it your whole life and you just haven't discovered the meaning of it or haven't put two and two together. Some people do, and they think, well, I kind of feel like that. I've read documentation on star seeds, but I don't want to go around telling people I'm an alien from planet XYZ. Who cares?
Okay.
Be you.
You might actually be doing yourself a favor if you do, because it'll clear out it'll clear out the people that you don't really necessarily vibrate with, and they'll like attract a bunch of whole like more friends or more fun friends. Oh, that's awesome. Well, you touched on something. There is actually a couple of things I wanted to address that you said. Like we were talking about the filaments between the stars. That's actually happening right now. So between the two of us and those who are watching, like we're all connected. Like just sit with that for a second. We're all connected with that filament of light.
Mm-hmm.
So just know that even though you may not have those people in your life physically, that you are connected, just like the stars and the filaments of light between them, which is really cool in my opinion. And the other thing that you brought up, which is kind of off topic, but I think it ties in and very important, it's very, very important, is the topic of sovereignty. That is so important right now, you guys. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. So your divine sovereignty is so important, and claim it.
Yes.
Claim your divine sovereignty. Again, that is in the blue crystal activation and the divine sovereignty meditation. I encourage you to check it out if you feel led to do so, or just meditate on your own. You don't need anybody's meditation. Just open yourself up and ask for those activations, and ask for the awareness and support and assistance, and claiming your divine sovereignty. It is so very important right now, because there more than ever in any time of human history, our divine sovereignty is, they're not going to win.
No.
They're not going to win, but at the same time, claim it. Claim your divine sovereignty. Stand in your knowing around it. Stand in your truth, and let that light shine, because that is part of being a star seed,
Mm-hmm.
is knowing and feeling and expressing that divine sovereignty inside. And going back to what Alan was saying, is that once you claim that, the things that you used to do aren't going to jive, because the things that we are programmed to do by our culture in order to fit in is actually those things that were created to take away our sovereign power. So once you claim that and you step into that knowing and you're living it day to day, those things that did that in the past, you're going to be like, no,
Right.
no, like it's just going to be like, I don't do that anymore. I don't do it, because you're going to feel that power and it's just not going to jive. Is there
Uh,
something you wanted to say to that, Ellen?
Um, it was more along the lines of, once you start recognizing the basics, right? That we are all infinite, energetic, spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. Once you get that as a basic down, that's your baseline, then you start to become more aware of the connection that you have to things, right? Hollywood has a beautiful way of, polishing something up that's the truth and making it look like entertainment so that you discredit it. So, like Avatar is a perfect example. How everywhere they went, everything responded to their energy and to their intentions and responded in kind. So, in that aspect, it's very important, especially now when you're claiming your sovereignty is also to manage your energy. As light workers, as star seeds, as empaths, we always are being pulled to broken people, people who need our assistance, and that's our livelihood in a way, spiritually speaking.
Right.
Um, you have to be very cautious of who you give your energy to. And while I don't want to jump on the bandwagon of the current health situations, it's very much the same. There's nothing wrong with getting close to somebody and giving them a hug. You don't have to wipe your hands on your shirt or any of that, but you do have to be aware of cleansing your auric field and your energetic space. And there's a lot of different methods that you can use to do that. I had a QHHT, which is a quantum healing and hypnosis therapy treatment, or something to that effect. And in that process, I was given a lot of keys to be able to do so. And I know, Natasha, you like to clear the space when we do these meetings and these talks and set your intentions for these meetings. And that's always been a very valid and valued aspect of having a conversation with you, is you're aware of your energy and the energies and intentions of others and how that can affect the basic overall communication. And you can feel that when you're really in tune. And one of the things that I do daily is cleansing of my space. I do it in the morning, do it at night. And
Absolutely.
I do it for myself and for my family because sometimes they don't know how to do it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely important for those of you watching. Please, yes, follow that tip, because I too do cleansing at least once a day, at least. And depending on how many clients, I usually do energy clearing after clients as well.
Mhm.
It's so important, very important, especially if you are working with others in a lower vibrational field, or you have a tendency of like looking at media that has those lower frequencies.
All do.
Definitely, especially do a clearing before you go into your dream space.
Yes.
Really,
Very,
totally,
very.
totally. Because you might find some things that you don't really necessarily want to engage with.
Well, on top of the cleansing, I was taught a cloaking, and that is, once you start talking about cleansing your auric field and cloaking your astral body and things of that nature, to the uninitiated, it sounds very far fetched and voodoo, but it's not. I mean, look at it like this: if you are a religious person, it's not uncommon for you to do your cross or whatever it is. It's not uncommon to say a quiet prayer before you go in the car or whatever. And nobody's going to turn and look at you and go, "What are you doing?" You're like, "I'm praying before I start driving. Is that okay?" Like, nobody's going to give you a hard time about it. Do what feels right to you, because everybody's different. But at the same time, we all have a bigger role and responsibility in these days and times that we're in, where you're looking around and you're seeing the type of people that you don't want to be, but you still got to live around those people. And so the energy that you put off is that filament connection. And the more that you are aware of your energetic space and how you maintain that space and that energy field, that frequency, the more other people around you are going to get on that frequency. And it's going to show you the ones that aren't meant for your bubble, because they're going to be put off by you. And that's good.
Well, yeah, they'll either get in your bubble or they'll spin out of it. They'll just like, and no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you try to like pull them into your bubble, it's like, no, they will leave. They will leave. And it's all the frequency. The frequency just isn't in harmonic convergence, right? It's like no harmony there. So
I like to make the analogy that it's like trying to pinch a lemon seed, right? You
uh-huh.
can pinch a lemon seed all you want. It's always going to.
Right.
And the real message behind that is non-attachment. That's what opens up the door. When you stop caring about what other people think and how you appear to other people, and not being attached to people, places, or things, just exist in the space, be present, be grateful. gratitude is the highest frequency that you can run with. And
Okay.
in these days and times, like, you can get into the habit of, oh, it's Monday and I'm having a terrible day, or I got to sit in traffic. Find something in that to be grateful for and hang on to that. That will change your whole energetic field.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think that that is a great place to end the video call. We have 2 minutes, so just want to thank you all. Alan, thank you so much for connecting with me today, and those of you watching in the present now or in the present future. And yeah, just sending out so much love and light to you guys. And Alan, hope we can do this again.
Always a pleasure. Wouldn't miss it.
All righty. Take care, you guys. Bye bye.